Hi, I'm Sloppy. We're back again with the Steam Deck. This time I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to show off two 3D printed accessories that I have for it, and do a comparison with a relatively cheap digital caliper. And we will do a comparison with the PS4, PS5, and Xbox One controllers. I don't have the new Xbox. So let's jump right into it. First, I want to show you the 3D printed accessories. You can see there's something a little not right here. It's a little big for the case, but it definitely fits and it definitely holds everything in place very neat. And I'll include these STLs in the description of this video, so be sure to take a look. This is, of course, a little cable management. I also put my little thumbstick caps in here as well, and the strap holds them in place pretty well. So the reason I like this one is because the cable wraps all the way around in its own little channel and then slots into place. With this print, it comes with supports, and the supports come off fairly neat. There's a little bit of splintering here where the layer adhesion was too strong between the support and the actual print itself, but it came out pretty clean, and it has slots for SD cards. So if you have your microSDs, I know this isn't that, but into a little converter, it slots right in and holds in place with a little bit of friction, so these won't fall out. And like I said, all you do is slot your charger in here, and then it wraps around along this channel, and you just layer it top to bottom through the channel. And I would obviously go through and make sure the edges aren't too sharp accidentally. And then at the end of your third pass, you go up into here through this channel and then drop it in place here. Now, what I would prefer out of this print is that this avoid as much bending right here as possible. So if there were a better way, maybe shrink it down a little bit so that you could have a little more room, and then open this channel up so that you can have it a little less of a bend at the end of this cable here. But that's just my preference. And you can drop whatever accessories you want in there, and it slips into place right here. The other cable holder that I have is the first one. This is the first one that I started with. And with this one, your charging brick goes right here, and you just kind of wind the cable up and stuff it in here and slide this lid back over it. It has little slots. It has little slots right here. So this one you don't need to use the adapter for. You can just slot them right in, and it holds them in place with the lid. I did print this one a little too cold, so the layer adhesion's pretty bad, and I had to super glue it down just on that side, and it's on every single print. But what I like about this one is that when you put this one in place, it is way more flush. So this one sits a lot cleaner, a lot nicer into that little pocket than this bad boy here. However, I do like that this one has a route for your cables, and this one you just have to stuff in place. So I'm not too fond of this one. It's a little bit quicker and easier to print. It takes no supports. It prints separately. And it's a really good print. You have to print it without supports. I accidentally left supports on and it came out chaotic. So this one prints fast, no supports. It has a lid and slots for your microSD cards without adapters. This one, a lot bigger, doesn't fit as neat, but it has a better route for your cable management, and you have to use adapters if you want to store extra microSD cards. Because remember, you can hot swap your microSD cards. So you can load them up with as many games as you want and switch them on the fly. Both of these I will link down in the description below. But since we're done with that, we can hop into a little bit of a size comparison. So for this comparison, I will remove the skin. I'll do a little bit with the skin because it does add quite a bit of heft to it, and I personally really like that extra chunk that you get out of having these little ribs on it, and it keeps you from getting too sweaty, because I know sometimes I get a little too into my game and I turn into a full-on sweat. Let's measure this out real fast. I'm just doing mostly with the grips and the distances on the buttons and the joysticks, so that we can have a better idea of what it exactly is going to feel like in comparison to these. So, with the grips on, I should probably turn on my... And we will run this in millimeters, since everyone runs millimeters anyways. And it's, if you're doing anything with 3D printing, like those accessories are, that's what you want to measure in anyways. So the grips are 42.72 millimeters in fat. I don't know what to call the measurement, but this portion right here comes at 42.72, and we'll do the grips on here. Are, let's see, at the widest point, they're 38.1. 38.12 at the fattest point on the PS4. Let's see. At the largest point on the Xbox, it comes in at 38.95, roughly. This is not exactly a perfect science here. And then coming in actually a lot fatter at its fattest point, at 41 millimeters on the PS5. Now the distance between buttons at the furthest across, 33.3 on the PS5. I'll just go PS5 for 33.3 on the PS4, and 31.32 on the Xbox. And then here, much more narrow at 26.6 on the Steam Deck. I'm going to assume this is going to have smaller all around, since it is the only one that's made mobile. So let's go back up, and the width of the D-pad at 22.27, and on the Xbox 23.04, the PS4 25.66, and the PS5, I would assume, 25.66. So these are going to have roughly exact measurements as far as button distance. And let's see, what else would we want to know? Let's pop the case off. It's kind of like Ace Ventura climbing out of the rhino's ass. Alright. Oh, that still feels really nice. I like it. It has a good feel, even just as it is. It's got a little bit of chunk to it, not too heavy. So I'm honestly very pleased with the way this feels. The D-pad doesn't feel super small. I'm used to staying in the center of it and rotating around anyways. Now let's measure this at its fattest point, which is interesting because it's hard to decide if this would be the fattest point or if I rotate it to the top. So we'll see. I will show you exactly where I measure. Let's do right there. And that's 35.79. If I push real tight, I could probably get it 0.75. But I figure its fattest point about 37.8. So not super fat, especially in comparison to this chunky boy right here. This one definitely feels a little bit fatter, but you also got the open bottoms to curve these extra fingers around. Whereas on here, these fingers are sitting back on this, which feels good. It has enough width to it that when you're grabbing onto it, it doesn't feel like you're going to lose it, and your fingers don't feel cramped. So you don't have an arch in it. You can just rotate your palms forward. I was actually worried, because I have relatively small hands, that this was going to feel weird, or it wasn't gonna be easy to control. But it honestly is a great fit. I tend to sit higher up on the controls. If you sit lower down, then you might need to make a little bit of an adjustment. If you sit down and brace the bottom of it in your palms, you're gonna have a hard time reaching up here. So let's do another measurement now that I thought of it. The height of the controller. All right, 116.1 millimeters. And now we already know this is going to be the tallest and the fattest. So 105. I would assume we're going to get the same measurements out of this. It depends if I go with this. It's got a slanted cut on the bottom. It's about 105 if I go to the top, to the narrow part of the slant. If I really want to stretch that out, I could get 106, 107, but it's that weird slant cut that's making it feel, or making it difficult to measure. And with this as well, from the top of the button, since the shoulder buttons protrude a lot further, it is 112 if I'm going from the top of the shoulder button to the bottom of the grip. So realistically, I think this is going to be more comparable to the Xbox controller, simply because it's not really ergonomic for people with larger hands to be able to wrap around, opposed to these PlayStation controllers where if you have big hands, your fingers are just going to wrap around that bottom part. So it feels more akin to an Xbox controller. Probably would feel a lot like a Pro controller, since you are using the rear buttons on a Pro controller. If I could measure the travel, it honestly feels more like the PlayStation. I feel like the Xbox ones have a little more travel. I have no idea how to measure that. And I feel like if I do, or make an attempt, I'm going to get yelled at. So I'm going to go ahead and save myself the embarrassment, and I'm not going to do that. Let's see. Was there anything else anyone wanted to see? I'm trying to reach out in the comments. I know I had some questions about the size in comparison to the PS4 controller. And that was a comment from Mr. Tom Van Den Abil. And I hope I said your name right. I probably totally screwed it up. But I do appreciate the comment, and here's your video, sir. If anyone else has any ideas or anything they want to see specifically, or any games they want me to try out, I'm more than happy to give it a shot. I'm going to jump on some Final Fantasy on this, and we'll post another gameplay video, so keep an eye out for that. I'll try to get it up around the same time as this one. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.